Whew boy, not really sure how to approach this one. I guess, to start off, the fact that this film made it all the way through production without getting cancelled says to me that the current mentality over at Warner Brothers towards the DCEU, or whatever they're calling it this week, is to just sort of shrug and say, well, train's going off the cliff anyway, no point in slowing down now. This is a series that we're now 6 films deep into over the course of just 5 years, but that has only one entry with any kind of widespread critical acclaim or word-of-mouth popularity. Everyone hated the last movie, which also underperformed at the box office, then had one of its leads drop out of contract with another likely to follow suit, so naturally the studio's response is to just continue on with its plan of making spin-off films starring the Justice League characters. Business as usual. On top of that, Jason Momoa's Aquaman was easily my least favorite hero character in that movie. He's a grating, flippant jerk-off that talks, dresses, and behaves like the kind of guy you'd expect to see going to college parties in his mid to late 30s.
It's on him.
Dude just seems unpleasant, and when I first saw Justice League, I couldn't have ever imagined wanting to see an entire film with him as the main character.
I came because I had no choice.
Now, with all of that said, I do have to admit that besides Wonder Woman, Aquaman is easily the most entertaining film in this series to date. Don't get me wrong, it's also easily the stupidest movie I've seen this year, by a mile. The entire first act of the film is wall-to-wall exposition, and I found myself catching plot holes and/or extreme leaps in logic during basically every dialogue exchange. I also think I counted like 3 or 4 scenes that abruptly transition into action by a wall or something in the background exploding and a bunch of mooks hopping in to do battle with the heroes. This film is quite literally impossible to take seriously, but it phases in and out of so bad it's good territory, so it's mostly watchable. A perfect storm of questionable scripting, casting, and acting decisions combined with some crazy out there visuals make this movie truly a unique experience. Everything about the story, however, is rote and predictable. It's definitely the weakest part of the film. It's basically Thor by way of The Little Mermaid.
Merman.
And stars Jason Momoa once again as Aquaman, who has to battle it out with his brother, played by Patrick Wilson, for control of the undersea kingdom of Atlantis.
In this trident resides the power of Atlantis. In the wrong hands, it would bring destruction.
The fate of the world hangs in the balance, and yada yada yada. This stuff is written with all the complexity of a Saturday morning cartoon and delivered with the weight and gravitas of a second-rate WWE match where I don't particularly care for either of the wrestlers.
I call it an ass whooping.
This movie is trying so hard to make Aquaman a badass that it frequently crosses over into self-parody.
Permission to come aboard?
Virtually every time Momoa looks anywhere in the general direction of the camera or strikes any kind of pose, the movie throws in an awkward electric guitar sting. Aquaman's arc essentially boils down to him having to come to terms with the fact that he really is the one true badass that Atlantean legend foretold.
That is exactly why you are worthy.
Aquaman, it doesn't matter that your brother is more powerful than you, and more skilled in combat, and has an army of seahorses and crab people on his side, for you have something he will never have. This mega super ultra mega weapon. You are the only one badass enough to be worthy of its power.
I already got one of those.
Not like this one, you don't.
Meanwhile, Patrick Wilson, as Aquaman's half-brother, is hamming it up to high heavens. Half his screen time ends with him screaming as the camera pans out to a wide shot of some ridiculous underwater CGI monstrosity. Speaking of which, this film does actually have some really great-looking visuals at times. The technique they've developed to make the characters appear as though underwater looks fantastic, and a lot of the creatures and architecture is inventive and a true spectacle to behold. Then, at other times, the film presents you with some shots that are so completely absurd that no amount of fine-tuning would make them look less silly. The highlights for me were this one shot of a kid, maybe 10 or 12, laughing and frolicking with several CGI dolphins as he skips and jumps across the ocean waves alongside them, shooting in and out of the water like a human torpedo. As well as another shot where a giant octopus dead-ass plays the bongos like it stepped right out of Under the Sea. To sum up, I really can't say whether or not I can recommend Aquaman. Will I ever watch it again? Probably not. Will I ever forget it? Again, probably not. While it would have been really impressive if they'd found a way to actually make a good movie out of Aquaman, the guy who's been the poster boy for lame superheroes since the 60s, it was never going to be with this version of the character.
Redheads! You gotta love them! This is badass! Badass!
Ultimately, I guess this is the best I could have reasonably hoped for.
I have one simple request, and that is to have sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
Worthy of a curiosity watch once it's available to stream, but definitely don't bother seeing this in theaters, especially if you haven't already checked out Bumblebee and Into the Spider-Verse, which are both way, way better. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, help me out by hitting the like button, subscribing, ringing the bell, and all that other stuff. Let me know down in the comments any and all of your thoughts on Aquaman, and check out some of these other videos up on screen. Once again, a big thank you to all of you so much for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and take care.